Vermintide 2 is a hack-and-slash horde game that follows a linear path map until the group of 4 heroes reach the end. Each instance or game should take around 20 minutes to complete normally. If you have ever played Left 4 Dead, the game is basically using the exact same gameplay and features. Enemies in Vermintide 2 are made up of 3 types. Mobs, which die in just a hit or two. Specials, which take a few more hits and have special abilities to lock down a player, requiring another player to intervene to rescue them. And lastly, bosses, which appear in set locations and take a considerable amount of time to take down as they rush into your team's ranks and scatter you about. There are a few healing items in the game, such as healing potions and med packs, speed potions that allow you to move faster, concentration potions which refill your main ability meter, bombs and fire bombs, and books that allow for better clearing rewards and score. These items can be found spread out across the map and will often require you to memorize their location for higher difficulties. The post-game loot that you earn after each instance will grant you equipment that will slowly scale up as you do. These rewards will either be accessories, which are non-hero specific, or hero-specific weapons. So make sure to open chests as the character you want to receive the rewards on. Weapons for heroes, while specific, do have a range of different playstyles, as there are about 4 to 5 presets for the melee and range weapons for each character. So you will decide if you want a wide sweeping slow blade for clearing mobs or a fast small blade for dealing heavy damage to a single target. You will also decide if you want a ranged weapon that can snipe enemies from afar or a short range weapon that can clear enemies without having to aim. Each hero can cover different playstyles, not only due to their weapon choice, but also their abilities, as you have a small amount of skills or styles to change up as you level up. The heroes, while different, are not that specific in what they are good at, as there are no specific roles in the game. So no one will be playing the healer or the ranged DPS, as there are limitations such as ranged ammo or cooldown, requiring all party members to play a role of cutting down enemies on the front line. Cooperation is extremely important in this game, as players will have to defend the backs of our players from the hordes as they attack your party from all angles. Rescue from special enemies as they lock down a player whose only hope is to be saved, at least they be killed, as there's no way to get out being locked down unless you have another player rescue you. And reviving down team members, as well as rescuing ones that have died and await you further down the map. There is a hub zone that you will load into to collect rewards, set up your next game, and manage your equipment. The world itself contains little areas to do these actions in that are mostly cosmetic, as you can access basically everything in the hub world through your main menu. The use of decently skilled AI bots to cover for games where you don't have other human players in yet, or players that have left, or when you just want to play alone, is actually really good mechanic and can help you go through games more smoothly. Now for the bad. The movement in the game is extremely cumbersome and slow, as your character is incapable of anything other than a slow walk. As if there's no care in the world about the massive horde of enemies chasing them while they are behind the rest of the party with no hope of catching up. The only thing besides slowly walking a player can do in terms of movement is this tiny little jump that will allow you to get over really small obstacles to the next area. I consider this problem to be one of the worst in the game, as it makes catching up and kiting impossible, as you have to stand around and tank damage as you are slower than every enemy in the game, and can't even really maneuver around objects in the environment. There's also a major issue when it comes to joining games, as the bot you take over will be standing still as you load in, resulting in you joining a game far behind your team, almost always resulting in a death, as a lone party member has almost no hopes of surviving even a few seconds against the enemies in the game. So heavily reliant on teamwork. Again, this problem is made even worse by the lack of movement in the game to be able to catch up or run away from enemies. The level design in the game is just so atrocious, as you will be completely lost in many maps that have no clear direction of where to go forward, and you will often be prevented from backtracking. So if a teammate is down only 2 feet from you, but you went down this tiny little ledge, you'll never be able to get back up to rescue them until they slowly bleed out and die, and then you have to go halfway through the entire map before you're able to pick up their newly spawned rescue body. So again, this is a problem made worse by the lack of movement and the lag time between joining, as you will be lost and not know where to go as your team is separated from you. And it takes a long time to move anywhere to try and find your way around. There's also a massive gap between difficulties, as Recruit has loads of healing items everywhere and enemies deal almost no damage. But on Veteran difficulty, enemies deal a ridiculous amount of damage, chunking out half your health bar in one attack, and there's almost no healing items in it. There is also a major issue with team ditching. I am not sure if it is just the players who play the game not caring that it's a heavily teamwork-focused game, or if the indicators are too weak, which is what I am leaning a little bit more towards. But a team member who knows the way forward will often ditch their teammates, often by what seems like accident, as they do not see the door or the hidden passage that the forward teammate went through, resulting in the rest of the team becoming lost and split up, and which almost always results in the team getting wiped and dying out, as they require cooperation of all 4 teammates to survive. This is even the case when they are near each other, as 1 or 2 teammates will be singled out in a fight and be downed, only for other team members not even to notice that they're down or seem to care, as they focus on some faraway mob enemy instead of coming to help them up. There is a emote / ping menu in the game that calls for help, but all it does is bring up like this little chat saying help, help in the chat, which nobody notices because there's no cue for anyone to go, oh wow, I just heard the ping, or I just saw the sound. Instead, it's just literally the equivalent of you typing help in the chat bar, and the chat's so small that nobody's even going to notice anyway. So even if you ask for help, odds are nobody's going to notice until the fight's over and you're probably dead. In conclusion, I would probably say Vermintide 2, while an interesting game and it borrows a lot of interesting things from Left 4 Dead, it had potential, but it suffers far too much from its problems. Being such a team-focused game with little to no mechanics that aid for cooperation results in the game suffering. Mix of bad mobility, bad level design, and random difficulty spikes between the different sets makes the experience have too many flaws to get invested in. The loot mechanic comes off too much as a grind for worthless materials that don't mean anything until probably late game. The game itself comes off as an attempt to recreate Left 4 Dead using Warhammer Fantasy Universe, and only being slightly successful. This is just what I think of the game, and will probably not continue playing it after this review.